Welcome to another episode of Clinic Success Secrets, podcast where we uncover the strategies and insights that drive clinic growth and elevate patient care. I'm your host, Tommaso Dwyer, founder of Clinic Success Partners. I look to bring my own perspective into these conversations. I'm eager to learn from every guest about how they're leveling up their specific healthcare business. Join me as we dive into expert advice and success stories from clinic owners and healthcare leaders around the world. Today's guest, I have the great honor of chatting to the one and only Dr. Ben Holtom, founder of iON Health and Performance, a multidisciplinary clinic that blends advanced techniques such as neurofunctional acupuncture, chiropractic care, sports medicine, and cutting-edge health tracking technology. Dr. Holtom's clinic has not only expanded to 2 locations, but also redefined how patients experience healthcare, offering long-term optimization rather than a quick fix. That being said, pleasure to have you here, Ben.
Pleasure to be here, Thomas. I really appreciate you having me on today.
As if this conversation is going to go anything like our last one, I have no doubt that there'll be a lot of wisdom and maybe a few jokes said along the way. Before we get into it, let's just jump right in. What motivated you, to found iON Health Performance, and how did your own health or athletic journey influence that decision?
So back, and I do apologize, we're going to have a small golden retriever puppy walking around in the background here. But I started off as a junior professional hockey player. For those who are familiar in Ontario and Canada, I was playing with the OHL and constantly riddled by injuries. So unfortunately, it was a career Band-Aid, as a lot of people will say. Did everything I thought was right. I was, a gym rat. I was, doing personal training. Everybody, thought I was one of the hardest working people out there, but there's a lot of people that are playing professional hockey, making millions of dollars, and I'm here now. So it was always sort of my ambition to kind of figure out what was missing from my care that led me to not get the results that I wanted. It's funny, you think you're doing everything right, and I knew there had to be a better way, a little bit more of a systemized way. So I was playing my first year. We moved up to the second line. I was really excited to start, actually making a name for myself in hockey, and I dislocated my hip skating down the ice. So not even an impact injury, just popped out. And, it was extremely frustrating because, I'm winning every fitness test and doing all the things I thought was right. And, I had everybody under the sun working for me. I had a chiropractor, physiotherapist, athletic therapist, massage therapist, naturopath, personal trainer. And unfortunately, that was not enough to kind of get me to, the level that I wanted to achieve. So after my first hip surgery, I ended up being worse. I ended up having a neck and hip knee surgery about 4 months after my hip surgery. And then, a year and a half later, and then, a second hip surgery. And again, thought I was doing everything right, got treated, and just completely frustrated with the approach. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to chiro school. I'm going to try to figure this out. Did my MCAT, wanted to look down the medical direction, did quite well, and then just realized like that wasn't what I needed specifically for myself. So the passion for it wasn't as there as much as chiro. And then I even went into chiro school, and it's two years in, I'm like, this is not what I was hoping for. I figured I'd find a way to get myself better. Wasn't really getting the results that I wanted, and I was thinking about dropping out until I started exploring a little bit further some more of these advanced techniques, this more neurological and neurofunctional approach that we taught out of McMaster. And I was the demo for the class, and I would say 2 sessions with them being the demo. With my case history, I was better than I'd been in like 8 years, and it was pretty instantaneous. And the funny thing about it was not that much different than what people see from an outside looking in perspective. Not all the same techniques, but just a whole different philosophy of how you actually approach that care. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this. This is for me. This can figure out a lot of problems for a lot of people. And now I just, I wanted to share that with people. And, there's so many highly skilled, hardworking individuals that, they they're paying, they're trying, they have to explore it for themselves. And like, frankly, that should not be the case. Like, we are the professionals. We should be the ones responsible for getting somebody better. And people should be able to come to us and, have that answer, have that solution, whether it's just to get them out of pain or to reach their top performance. There needs to be a better way. And that sort of led me into getting into my own clinic. I knew it was something I always wanted to do. Started working for somebody else for a little bit. Wasn't going quite as planned. So signed the lease. Pandemic hit within the first 2 weeks after signing the lease, and we here we are, still surviving, still thriving, and really we're able to niche ourselves into a market, which has been awesome experience so far.
Oh, yeah. Again, we're definitely going to take that time to unpack what you do now, what's working, and so on. But I think to set the stage a bit more, would you mind running through a bit about what that different protocol was like? When you were, for lack of a better word, being the guinea pig that was being put on display for everyone. What was so new and innovative about this strategy compared with what you're doing before? And then how did that impact the way you practice?
It's going to come off a little bit broad, but I think, a lot of people that were, when I would go to a physiotherapist, I was getting exercise. When I was going to a chiropractor, I was getting adjusted. When I was going to an athletic therapist, again, exercise, a little bit of hands-on rehabilitation, but it was very, service-based. They had a tool that they were utilizing, and they used that tool based on the assessment that they had to try to get to what they thought was the root of the problem. For what this individual did was look at it from a holistic system. I mean, they, talked about nutrition, they talked about diet, they talked about gut health, they talked about my asthmatic history, they, what sport I played. There was, 30, 45 minutes with me sitting up there giving my full healthcare history.
Therapy session.
And then, it was, he knew exactly where to press. Like, it was like, once you actually took the time to spend with the client, who was me at the time, but he didn't waste time trying things, experimenting things. He knew where to go almost immediately. And again, it wasn't that far off still from what some of the previous practitioners had done. So I think with this was more the fact that it was a neurological approach, which is, if you look at our company and our branding and what we're doing, we really try to push that as much as possible, because it ties everything together. The nervous system is involved with, digestion. It's involved with, brain function, emotional states, how your muscles move, what you feel for pain. So if you kind of rope it back to where, like, it's, at the end of the day, what I say on a regular basis, it's the nerve that feels pain, it's the nerve that tells the muscles what to do. So it gave you a proper assessment protocol. It gave you and it gave you a target to hit. At the end of the day, if the nerve is feeling the pain, that's the thing you have to treat. So even though I was receiving ART type treatments around the hip flexor, it was more that femoral nerve, which is innervating the front of the hip. And then that's, one treatment, it was as good as it had been in a while. The second treatment, it was my glutes were firing all of a sudden without even targeting that directly. But it made sense. Once you actually understand the nervous system, it made sense. So it was, a different approach, but it ties everything together. And I think the biggest issue with it is it takes time. You have to spend the time, invest the time into actually, diving in, assessing, doing the history. And, as practitioners, we want our hands on people as much as possible because we feel like we need to, provide that care. Otherwise, we're not giving them what they came in for. So, if you're taking the time to actually get the right thing, you can spend 5 minutes actually treating, 55 minutes doing the assessment versus, 50 minutes of me doing something that's not doing a single thing for the individual, and I'm nowhere further than where I started. So we get super nervous taking the time not doing what we're being paid to do, and I think it ends up wasting a lot of time. Whereas if you actually invest the time into properly assessing, properly diagnosing, exploring what's going on, then you can get a lot further with somebody.
I think the more time again hearing you speak, as our other podcast guests and clients, so on, I think there's a lot of universal principles that transcend both healthcare and, even what we do, the marketing services at Clinic Success Partners. What jumps out to me is when I talk to you is you're not one, as I said, you're in it for the long haul. And that's one thing I really admire about the way you run your clinic. You're a big advocate of measuring twice and cutting once, like actually diving into, not trying to address the symptoms, but actually what is the underlying cause. And also, again, that kind of ties to the next point, I guess, similar to what we do, is that holistic approach, not having this siloed issue. We see this with chiropractors, we see this with physios, surgeries, any type of healthcare. I think there's a massive movement, as you said, to viewing the human organism really as an entire entity. And instead of having that this disjointed, situation, like you said, where the acupuncturist may not be talking to the physio, may not be talking to the chiropractor or what have you. And I think mental, physical health, there is this big push and this need in the market really to have that centralized clinic, such as yourself, that can really identify, okay, who do you need to talk to? And, let's come up with the holistic strategy that addresses everything from top to bottom. As I said, I just want to say that's one thing I admire about the way you're running your clinic. But the question I would have then is, because I know as we've talked about this before, how would you define your integrated approach, and what do you believe is your position in the market? What sets you guys apart?
It's funny how this has sort of transitioned over the last couple of years, right? It's, we, really sort of try to be our niche of this neurofunctional approach. I'm going to combine both the clinical and the marketing. And I think, in a lot of ways, they're one and the same. I know you and I have talked about that because, you need the person to believe in what you're doing if they're going to, want to buy in, but also not just from a financial standpoint, but from a clinical standpoint. Like they need to buy into what you're doing, which is why it's so important to build those relationships and to have that marketing piece to it. They go hand in hand, even though a lot of people, stigmatize that to a degree. But, the tagline I use at our office with our staff is like, we provide solutions, not services. And at the end of the day, someone is coming in for you to resolve a problem for them. And it's important that you know and understand their goal, their purpose. And then once everybody's actually working towards the same goal, the practitioners don't have to work very hard to coordinate about what you're doing. If you're all working towards the same purpose and intent of getting this person better, you can do that in 7-8 different ways. But if you understand that one piece that individual is trying to get to, collaboration comes with hardly any effort. So we, going back, I sidetracked a little bit there. Talking about the neurofunctional was our biggest thing. And, just because I wanted to niche ourselves into the market. And, now I've sort of more focused on the solution basis of like, it's not, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do for the individual, whether it's, electroacupuncture or ART, is like, am I going to get better? And is this person going to provide me with what I want? And I think that's also, understanding what the client wants is not just good from, we're working towards this goal, but like, how far do they want to go with it? So there's a lot of people that walk in and they just want to get pain free, and then they want to, go on about their day, deal with it themselves. Perfect. That's fine. But I think a lot of people get trapped in this idea that, this was the issue, this was the pain, pain, it takes 7 things to go wrong before pain actually starts being felt. So what has led to that? What is like, how much more room is there for improvement, and making sure that we are constantly looking for progress, looking for, additional value every single time that person walks through the door. If it's, just me sitting there having a conversation with them and they feel like they're getting value of it, they're going to come back. You don't have to sell. You don't have to do a hard sell whatsoever. It's, just making sure that not only, I guess the tagline that I've also used is like, this is what we can do to get you what you want. Here's what you can achieve if you want to go further. right? And making sure that you're showing them that there's constant progress, there's room for constant growth. And not just doing what that person initially wants or initially expecting. This healthcare is complex. There's so much more room for improvement. And if they want it, great. And if they don't, great. It's but making sure that we're always thinking about progress every single session is, really, I think, separated us from the average, clinic. There's people that still love their old physio. They'll go to them and then they'll come see me once they are better because they know they're going to get value out of me no matter what, right? I'm going to find things that are a problem, but they're still loyal to that person, their family, friends, and they want to support them, but they'll come to me afterwards because they'll know they'll get that continued progress, and then they'll go in for the odd session with them as they go. But yeah, I think just that optimization, that performance, that next level of care, and, also that motivating piece of like, you can reach the next level. It's, if you want to, we're here. It's not a hard sell. People either love it or they get to the certain point, and it's helped us from a marketing standpoint. It's helped us from a clinical standpoint, and, people know what they're getting when they come into our office, which is great.
I think with that, there's a meta trend that I'm seeing. Again, getting a bit abstract here, but combining with the holistic side of things and addressing the root and all that, there's a meta trend that I think that I'm observing here that I think is very, very aligned with how you're running your practice. And that is sort of the differentiation between health, optimizing for health span and also lifespan and health span, really. Difference between just, hey, I want to not, be pain-free, or versus how do I actually make the most of my life. One is obviously based on fear, which is, hope I don't hurt too much, or the other is how can I actually reach my potential. Do you believe that's driven by, as we talked about this before, your athletic background really being a strong influence on that, effectively being the clinic that you wish you had as an athlete?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as an athlete, you're always looking for that improvement, the next level, that progress. And it's kind of funny because athletes are, in a way, gift and cursed, because they are incredible at adapting. They're incredible at, like, if they have an injury, they'll be able to still perform at a very high level. So, there's people in the Olympics that win gold medals that have had ACL surgeries, and like they've permanently changed the structure of their knee. And they're not doing, the same, capacity or the same movement that is technically optimized, but they have optimized within their window. So, of like window of function. So then, they have found that continued progress, but like, how good could they be if they continue to work out some of that scar tissue and get it back to more of this optimal level? Athletes, I think, get trapped in this idea. It's like, okay, it's not hurting anymore. We're good. We can, we can continue. And there's obviously this culture of like, suck it up, and, it's going to hurt. It's, you have to be able to push through it, which, like, I'm sure, your history that you've been in that.
Yeah.
Well, quite a bit.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's, it's funny because I'm looking back, I'm just like, my hips were terrible. And like, I wasn't hurting, I wasn't in pain, I was losing a lot of power, I was hitting a plateau, but, I'm just thinking, oh, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not working hard enough. And you just continue, and then just becomes this kind of toxic environment until it leads to like you either getting sick or getting injured. Hans Selye's law of adaptation. I don't know if you're familiar with the curve, but like, you reach a point of plateau, and then, you either, you reach that training overload. And unless you have a reflexive improvement, if you recognize the training overload, you'll have a massive reflexive, like, actually adaptation and improvement with your functional performance, or you're going to continue trying to train down that road and get sick and get injured. And I think so many people have this idea. It's like, okay, just push through it. And then it ends up becoming a pretty major issue down the line, right? Again, getting a little bit off topic here, and your question was more so geared to like, what's my athletic, background, wanted me to kind of search into this. Yes, because, I thought I was doing the right thing, and I was working so hard, and became like, it's frustrating, especially being a busy clinic owner now, Um, it, you only have so much time. There's literally like, I never felt when you're young, you always think like, oh, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Now that I'm a business owner, now I'm busy. Now it's, there's literally a stop time of like, this is as much as I can do. So, but there's always room for you to continue to work harder. But now my philosophy has really switched over to like, what is, I do this from treating. And I said this a bunch of times when you and I talk, but like, what is the least amount of things or least amount of intervention I can do to have the maximal possible benefit, right? How can I be lazy? And I try to get my athletes thinking about that all the time is like, how can, it's easy to work hard into the gym. It's easy to try to push yourself even further, all the time. But is that actually getting the maximum benefit you possibly can? Right. And that was me as an athlete. I'm just like, I can always work harder. And I did until I broke. So it was sort of this toxic mindset that was drilled into me at a young age. And a lot of people that end up making through is like the genetic marvels that have this incredible recovery ability to be able to push through it. The old Russian mentality of like try to break them, and then the people that don't break are going to be the best athletes. But there's so much opportunity for athletes to continue to get better and your clinic to get better, and it's just doing things a little bit more efficiently. Again, sorry, I got off topic there, but
No, it's to be honest, I have a million different ways I want to go off that. And again, obviously we got the trade-off. Yes, it might be a great athlete, but fast forward 15 years and they can't walk, it's a different story. Or, depending on the type of work, me and you've talked about this before. My background was combat sports, and I was actually just remembering there was a Kurt Angle, an American wrestler. He broke his neck. I think it was 1996. And he went on to win the gold, but needless to say, this was the broken neck. I think he just got jabbed with a bunch of, I don't know how he did it, but he got jabbed with a bunch of painkillers and won a gold, then got straight to hospital. But I know in my personal experience when I was competing in different sports, I remember at one point I tore my MCL. It was about a week, 10 days before a fight. And I talked to the physio, and at this point I was thinking, maybe I'll take a day and a half off. I'll chill. I'll only do one session a day for a few days and I'll be recovered. Because as you said, the human body is anti-fragile up until a point. And if you don't give it the chance to recover, I think I'm going to butcher. I think it's Wolf's Law, bone density and so on.
Should know that, but yes.
Should. Basically the adaptation is proportional to the stress built on it once you've time to adjust. But I remember my physio at the time saying, you could fight if we give you a load of painkillers, but it will destroy your knee because, in that case, I made the executive decision. I'm entering quite literally a ring or a cage where someone's actively trying to make me injured. Probably not a wise idea. Not the optimal scenario for optimal recovery. A question I'd have for you, Ben, and this isn't even sort of Ben, the clinic owner, more so as Ben, the entrepreneur. I very often have this conversation with friends of mine that have made that transition from some sort of athletic pursuit into running their own business. What kind of overlaps have you found, based on character traits or skill sets that you picked up in your athletic career that have allowed you to become a better entrepreneur? And also maybe what are some patterns, like you said, the overworking, the overtraining that you've had to overcome in that transition?
For sure. So, that's a great question. And there's tons of overlaps. And I think that's why you see a lot of people that were former athletes get into, the business world and the marketing world because of sort of that the drive that is required to, go off and start your own thing. There's a competitiveness. There is, this period of time where you're definitely uncomfortable and you're challenging yourself on a regular basis. So I think, even from a clinical me as a doctor, like I'm trying to become a better doctor, but I'm also trying to become a better, business owner every single day. One of the things I think that goes along with that is partially working as a team and leadership, and like we don't see a lot of that with the general population as a whole. There's like little communities and stuff, but you don't have to work necessarily together towards the same goal a lot of the time, right? So to be someone to like motivate and strive and like to actually come in and perform and not just show up and go through the motions, I think is a little bit different than what the average population has kind of gone through. Like there's always this strive to be better, to be more successful, which is can distract you from the here and now a lot of the times as well, right? I'm always thinking of step 5, and I still got step 1, 2, 3 to kind of work on, right? I was worried about making the NHL at the time, and trying to push myself to that level where I was not focused on or like to have the heaviest squat or to win the fitness competitions going into to training camp so that I could stand out. And then you kind of realize a little bit that maybe I should have rehabbed my hip and did some sort of things that were a little bit more present at the time. My body's hurting, but I'm more concerned about making sure that I win the fitness competition. And then like going even further into that is like, who cares? Right? You look at Mitch Marner, he couldn't even do a chin-up when he went into camp. Like, he's a famous story, right? He's one of the top players in the NHL. So, yes, they have those competitions for a specific reason to assess your functional capabilities. But, does that make me a better hockey player because I squatted everybody? No. But in my mind, that was that one thing that was going to help me stand out. So, you get competitive with everything, and then that can become very distracting and not get you towards the goals that you really want. At the end of the day, you have to kind of take a few steps back. And one of the things I do with a lot of my clients, when they tell me a goal, is why, right? Like, I ask them why 3 times. It's like, okay, I want to be able to bench 350. I'm like, okay, why? Because that's it's going to make me feel stronger. I'm like, okay, why? Like, is it actually with your sport, with your activity? And he's like, so I want to feel good and confident with myself and play play my sport better. I'm like, okay, now we have a reason to actually want to do that. So then we can like explore other ways of actually getting there a little bit more efficiently rather than just benching 350, right? And if he can now be a little bit more powerful into his movements, maybe that's something that we need to explore a little bit further. But the competitiveness, going back on track here, the competitiveness of the business world, that's putting yourself in a comfortable situation, seeing the putting in effort and seeing the results is such an amazing feeling. I think a lot of people like to they're very comfortable coming on and showing up for their job and doing their job and clinically helping people are amazing. Where it's like, I think both from a clinician standpoint and a business standpoint, I want to see continued success. I want to see that constant progress, which it gets distracting from being in the here and now and being you see like mega clinics in the Toronto area, like Athletes Care, where they have like 35 locations. It's like, okay, I want to get to that. But at the end of the day, I want to be a good clinician and provide the best possible service to people. Is 35 clinics going to actually get me there? And sometimes you get that little bit of distraction and you're constantly thinking of that next thing, the next level. Getting good at the level that you're currently in is extremely, extremely important. But they also, just kind of staying on track with your goals. Again, off topic here, but hopefully it somewhat aligns with your question. Yeah. Get me back
No,
on
I
track
think
here. If you
no, I said no. You're completely on track, and I think again the reason I'm asking these questions is, number one, I find your story very interesting, but two, I think, and again, I'm for whatever reason keeping it quite meta and abstract today, but again, you also touched on that whole point of what are the KPIs we're trying to push for here. What does, and again, shameless plug, what does success look like for the clinic? As you said, do you want to metaphorically bench 350 or do you want to get better at your sport? Do you want to have 35 locations or do you genuinely just want to help the most amount of people? And it's so easy, especially I think when you have some sort of athletic background, you want a quantifiable new metric that, new personal best, basically. And revenue might sound great, number of locations might sound great, but again, that recursive question of saying, all right, why do I want this? Why do I want this? Why do I want more locations? And then, as I said, the stronger the why, the easier the how. And it's so much easier to get those goals then. But before we start talking again more about the future, rewinding 5 years ago, so 2019, you're about to go very aggressive on the business side of things, but COVID happens. That couldn't have been easy. What strategies did you implement to get through that time and not just survive, but thrive?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. So, I was wanting to, there was some benefits to COVID, and I hate saying this because so many people were challenged during the pandemic. But for us, we had funding lined up. We had people ready to work to start building out the clinic. I had this ideal world based, and I had it all budgeted out accordingly, and we were like good to go. Then now all of a sudden, banks, no, we're not going to fund any new projects. So even though we, had everything signed, so, and then the Canadian government had a date, that was, to support small businesses. During this time, I was one day signing the business license after it, so I didn't get any of that funding. So I went from, perfect idealistic plan to, now this low budget, let's just get it done. No, not a ton of resources for marketing, not a ton of resources for, Google Ads, but at the same time, it allowed me to do a lot of things myself. So we did save quite a bit of money. I did a lot of the painting, I did a lot of the flooring just to kind of make my clinic, what I wanted it to be was this premium looking business, nice rooms, nice floor, nice wall, nice chairs, nice tables, like everything, to make it feel very professional and clean. What with everything being shut down, and I don't know how it was with you guys, but all medical facilities that were like allied health were shut down for about 2 months. So once March happened, things opened up, I believe May 27th, and people were dying to get in with other practitioners. So me offering this niche thing really kind of standing out. Like a lot of people were like, there's wait lists for all these clinics all over Guelph, and I just said, hey, I'm doing this different thing. Come in for a free session, see if you like it, and if you do, then we can get you in. People were desperate, so I took advantage of that situation, and I think there's a very fine line of offering free services and you're taking advantage of and offering free services to market yourself and really grow some loyalty with your clientele. So me being this guy, a little funding, I had a good story, people gave me a shot, and I was able to, get them better with a very unique approach to care that, frankly, one of, 2 clinics in Guelph operate as. So we really were able to kind of stand out and kind of become these people. And then, it also allowed me to, start to get referrals from clinics directly. There's a clinic down the road, I would say they're, technically our main competition. But because we offered something different and unique, and they were exploding, they're like, okay, we need to get these people some sort of care. So everything neuro-based was sent over to me. And then anything that, once I started getting full, I, fed them back and made sure that, they didn't feel like I didn't feel like they were taking advantage of them in that situation. And, we just really grew loyalty that way, by, a lot of people not working. I did some free treatments to, make sure people got by. I kept it, I knew it was a premium service. We had a higher cost, but, I'd, make sure that people got taken care of no matter what. And me being new, I wasn't shy about saying hey, I'm just getting into this. I will spend an extra 30 minutes if you let me try. I will bill you for it. And just little things like that. And, it's funny because people, you want to go to a practitioner, say you're having a surgery on your heart, you want to go to the arrogant, surgeon,
Yeah.
that is so overconfident that he's an asshole. Excuse my language on the podcast here, but
I'm Irish.
yeah, yeah, I was talking about that, but this is actually being recorded. No, but like it's, people, when they go to somebody, they usually get tossed around a lot. It's like they want people to actually care. They want people to actually try. So if me, saying I'm going to try this, I don't know what the results is going to be. Here's my rationale. Here's my clinical understanding of this case. Make sure you're not just experimenting on them for fun, but like, have a clinical rationale. And people really, really, really appreciated the fact that somebody was going above and beyond the effort of the traditional approach. And I really started to see that, which then allowed me to sort of more niche into like, I was not shy whatsoever was saying, I'm going to just try this and see, let me know how it goes. Let me know how you feel. And then, you either, it doesn't work out, you go back to traditional, or it does work out, people are singing your praises, and literally like word of mouth was king for us. We, started exploding that way, and we, made sure we get ourselves into certain communities where like a lot of people were coming from. Like I, started training and treating at the, CrossFit facility that's just down the road here. And, I started working out with them, starting to get to know people, give yourself an opportunity where people can ask questions, because you don't get to see too many people face to face too often. So during that time, and that allowed me to, get into a very tight community and really niche myself down, and that, here we are. So, it's nerve wracking being different, because you have to market yourself different. You have to approach things a little bit more unique. I mean, even you, I'm sure, are well aware that, you can't just hire a marketer, having a healthcare related marketer, somebody specific towards that, because it's so much different than, just mass marketing. It's way more personable. People need to actually develop trust. People actually read the bios. It's not like, post one or two things and try to keep it as simple and short so that you click to buy like much quicker. Like I had, Instagram posts that were, 6 months earlier that talked about my hip surgery, and, somebody books in with me later and they said, oh yeah, I read about you with your hip surgery and your experience, and that's why I came to you. I'm like, that post was 6 months ago. I have like 20 posts in front of that, but somehow, they took the time to research to kind of dive into that. So that really, have helped me have a better understanding of like, you have to share enough about yourself, and it's good to, be unique and show that you have shared experience, whether that's, just joining a community of CrossFitters, just so the movements. I was never good at kipping pull-ups or anything like that, but I at least knew what it involved. So then, yeah, it's, I knew it involved, so people trusted me, right?
Yeah, the expression escape competition through authenticity jumps to mind for me. And as you said, if you're not the super arrogant heart surgeon, then if you're a bit more candid, be like, give this a shot, here's the rationale. As you said, people hate the term vulnerability, in the sense that I'm not saying this to imply any sort of uncertainty, but just dead honesty, as you said, as to people want to do business with people, basically. And at the end of the day, if you can lean on that, and as you said, understand the nuance of healthcare. Because I mean, again, within the lens of what we do, my background, I think I mentioned, was biomedical engineering, and I've been very interested in healthcare for years. But as you said, there's always going, for what we do, there's always going to be nuance. You need to know, okay, what is a reasonable cost for a new patient for his, for this specific type of clinic on this platform? What can I say? What can I not say? How do people act? There's a lot of importance in nuance. But I think you just gave another good bit of advice. Just join the CrossFit cult, and you're set for patients for life.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because I held 4 gym memberships when I first started.
Yeah,
I had like a Good Life, I had Project Iron, I had CrossFit, I had F45, I had Orange Theory as well, so 5. So, and just, and I was going to yoga classes every so often, and just, you vibe, and, eventually that was unreasonable, right? But when you're trying to, get your name out there and explore different areas, you just try to, get involved in the community, and then you do too much, and then it becomes disingenuine, right? Like, I'm sure, for that, it was great. It was fantastic. I had the time. We were a smaller clinic at the time. I was worried about me treating and one other person. And, I'm not now in charge of 9 staff in my current location, and my second location, which is being run by and owned by our massage therapist. But it's it's funny how the clinic grows and scales, right? Because that was I cannot stress that enough from advice if you were to have this conversation with me 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But now it's like, trying to maintain that with how busy that we are currently, it was just not sustainable. It really wasn't. So I didn't, necessarily scale appropriately. People started getting competitive, especially when you get into different gyms. And then, it started to come off as disingenuine. So I think, it rubbed people the wrong way a little bit, and you're not fully committed to the community, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't really speak to what I do as a practitioner. So it's kind of against my own personality, and it shows, right? It showed eventually, right? I'm not doing movements because I think they're stupid, and they're gonna end up hurting somebody. That's like goes against what I do as a practitioner. So it's starting to be true to myself and like help people in other ways was a much better way to approach it, and just kind of find myself again at the last year. I've kind of gone more into more genuine, more true to myself, not trying to force myself into situations where it's not the right fit. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of this, while that is true, what might get you from A to B won't get you from B to C, D, E, whatever. But you should also lean on your own strengths. You're an athlete. Go, where everyone hangs out. And as you said, once you can communicate, right, this is not for me anymore, you put yourself out there, you might as well lean on what suits you. You mentioned, obviously, you've got 2 locations, again, bringing it back to today. And what sort of factors made you decide to open up that second location? And what advice would you give to other clinic growers or clinic owners that are looking to grow and add that second location?
So, yeah, it was a bit of an interesting relationship when we first started looking into that second location. And if it was just me on my own, I probably wouldn't have done it. But looking back, we had a massage therapist that had been trained in neurofunctional acupuncture. And, frankly, the majority of my staff I got because I said, hey, you should come work for me. Or they found us when they were Googling neurofunctional acupuncture because they wanted to work for a neurofunctional acupuncture clinic. The ones that didn't stick around and have since left, those weren't the relationships I built. The ones that actually sought us out, those are the ones that really kind of hung on here, which is, goes to show the importance of being genuine and having that clear identity as a business and as a clinic. So I met Sam, and she's, we sort of hit it off right away. I said, hey, come work here if you're ever looking for a job. Eventually a couple of months later, she's like, yeah, she's working at another clinic, a mega clinic. She's already signed a lease in Orangeville, going to go start her own thing. But she's like, I'm looking for somewhere else to, work. Like, this other place is kind of burning me out. Can I come work for you, with the idea that I'm going to go start my own thing in Orangeville? And she, I said, yes, of course. And we had the right person on staff, and outside looking in, doesn't look like a great relationship, right? Person's like, here, she's going to go start her own thing. It's going to be a competition, and but she fit our culture perfectly. She's, worked with, high level, hockey players, high level lacrosse players. She's integrated herself in youth sports, and it was a perfect fit and a perfect, philosophy, because she wants to get people better. Right. It's not just this, passive care, do whatever. She is on the sidelines making sure that, people are getting better. And one of the best massage therapists I've ever met. And, and has that understanding of our philosophy. And it's hard to find. So, one day I just said, hey, why don't we just do this together? So she's like, well, yeah. So, and at the end of the day, it saves, her it saves her a bunch of money, it saves me a bunch of money, like trying to start this whole thing, start to build your own brand, start to be at our clinic. We enjoy working with each other on a regular basis. We collaborate, we have different skill sets that, she's, neurofunctional, but more hands-on. And I'm, has the understanding of the nervous system, so she can refer those people to me if they ever have that more complex case. And then, once I get somebody better from the, high, nervous system sensitivity standpoint, the deep tissue responds so much better, and we refer to her. It's the perfect, balance from a clinical relationship standpoint. But more importantly, from a business standpoint, we had the same dream, the same identity of what we wanted to do from our clinics. So, the importance of finding the right people, and, that was a person, it may not be, financially beneficial at the end of the day, like directly right away, but it was so important to keep somebody that was like that on par with what we were trying to create as a clinic here at iON. And, to, now share that opportunity and do it together, it feels like you're in it with somebody else. And there's different, philosophies and approaches, and, some things that we got to do is define rules a little bit better. But, because we had, that clear identity of what we wanted to do with our clinic and our future, we have a little argument from here and there, from time to time, but but at the end of the day, we want the same thing. So it makes the relationship super easy. And, as much as, as much as I don't, immediately financially benefit from that clinic, it helps build a brand, it helps build a business, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's, and frankly, it was financially beneficial. I shouldn't say that. It's just, it's a really unique relationship. And when I explain it to people, people are really confused. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you, I go there once a week. She comes here once a week. We maintain each other's cultures. I help grow the chiro, rehabilitation standpoint. She helps grow the massage here. And, we're both good for each other's clinics, and we make them more valuable. So it's, same brand, at the end of the day. That's only going to help. It's hard to find people with that much value, and it's really important to hold on to.
And again, as you said, it's important. Again, this marketing / business / health parallels, it is so important to be able to identify not only the first order benefits, but the second ones. As you said, if in the event that you're looking to build a brand that will stand the test of time, having more people throwing more feelers out there, building that brand awareness is only going to help. On the topic then of the marketing, you've mentioned before that you leverage Google Ads a lot, and I know you mentioned you use Instagram. How does your digital marketing strategy look in 2024? And what insights have you gleaned in terms of what has been working for you and maybe what hasn't been?
Yeah, so this one's going to be a bit funny because, I think when I first started, one of the ways I grew the business through social media initially was, I found a need, right? You always go online, you find a need. What are people complaining about? What do people want to see? And one of the biggest things is like, I don't have a gym during the pandemic when it first started out. So I'm going to backtrack to kind of 2020 here and just say, like, what I did was I posted like, okay, you have an opportunity now to rehab yourself. Here is a daily workout that you can do. I posted at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Here's something that you can do for 10 to 20 minutes, body weight, no equipment needed. You're not going to have this opportunity to kind of give your body this level of break again, where you're not going to be able to sit there and lift weights unless you have them at home. So let's, take this opportunity to create some progress. And I've kind of created, I know there was a need, it wasn't directly asked for, but I kind of created that desire for something like that. And, people sought us out as a result of it. So I wasn't even running ads at that point. It just, when you start posting consistently every day, it's your face in front of the camera, I'm swearing in this a little bit here and there, and I'm swearing in those videos here and there. Like, I think people took it as very genuine, and that really helped us grow. As things got busier, it became a little bit more of a challenge, right? I talked briefly with you last time about how we went from a 2-room facility to a 6-room facility in like an instance, as a result of some things that we had to do with the business. And, sublease happened to become a full lease takeover, which then led to a lot of hiring, a lot of challenges that way. And that led to, me not doing quite as much on the social media side. I started delegating a little bit of that out. It always kind of came off as disingenuine, and but I just wanted to kind of maintain some posts. I got myself in front of the camera, but again, it was, my organization there was quite poor. Got back into doing it, got my more staff involved, made them kind of feel this excitement to like want to get themselves in front of the camera so that they could kind of grow themselves and they could feel like they're part of the business, especially when you start creating this culture of like, oh, this person's doing it, but I should probably do it, right? It's not forcing somebody to do it. It's just, they want to do it because everybody else is doing it, right? You kind of create that culture, and that started to, come off very positively. Somebody that worked for us beforehand, it was, really against our message of the business, and we had to tell him to stop, but that's a whole other side thing. It's, we want to appear professional and premium. We can't be, we have to, TikTok dances aren't quite, and self-deprecating posts that are funny are not, helping you grow the business.
Yeah.
It's, people literally reaching out saying, I don't want to see that person. So that's,
Wow.
It's important that, I start taking phone calls, and it's like, okay, people are actively asking to see anybody else. So it's really important that everything that you're doing is kind of on par with your messaging. And over the last, year, 2024, we've switched our, website over, and I'm like actively on this huge delegation train, and trying to be more clinical and more here with my staff, because like those are the people that are building this business, so I need to be available for them, which has led me to kind of step away from the social media marketing. I delegated that out to a couple companies, and it's frankly, I just 2 days ago called them and shut that down. So if anybody's looking for marketing advice, don't look at my social media over the last little while. You can see some of the posts that are like my staff, my personality, my like business. They'll have like 60 to 100 likes, versus the AI generated crap has about 1 to 2, and it's always the same people because they're just trying to support us. Usually it's family or staff, and that's my original understanding of it, and this is why it's important to have somebody that is knows the marketing, knows specifically clinical marketing. Was my understanding that if we had a social media post lead to a blog, which then had a link towards that blog that now would support the back end of the website and promote like the SEO, that's great. And, I'm hoping that was going to get us more clicks, but then you start looking at the stats over the last 3 months and realize, okay, there's only 2 likes on the posts. I think we've had 12 posts go out and not a single one of them has a click. So is that actually really helping the back end of the SEO or the website? No. And if anything, it's hurting our brand and our image as this premium clinic that's very niche, because it's AI generated stuff that's not on par with what what we do and what our message is. So now we have a brand confusion that we need to sort of shut that down. Or reconnecting or re-collaborating. I blocked off time to start filming some stuff for myself, especially getting into the more of the health tracking. I'm doing lab tests on myself. I'm sharing my stats. I got Garmin, Aura. We have Whoop as well, but and doing our lab tests, metabolic testing, seeing the connection. So right now we're doing a video series on my change and like what showed up from like a nutrient deficiency on my end, and how if me doing some supplementation to nutritional changes along with some exercise is going to affect my HRV, my sleep, and all that kind of stuff. So I think once people see it and realize it, and it's huge demand, right now everybody's looking for this, way to self-control their health or their health. I think we'll start to see a lot more success, because it has worked for us in the past. But I got off that track of like, I got so focused on going back to the whole doing things with intention, and, doing things with intention, purpose, and not getting too ahead of ourselves on goals that don't necessarily matter. My whole focus was delegate. And like, just so I can, spend more time working with my staff in the clinic, which then led to, we lost our message and our purpose, right? We've gone way too far off with that. So now we're kind of rediscovering that why. And you can see with it, even just a few posts of, just showing our staff and what we're doing and, how we are unique. It's like night and day difference. So, yeah, it's so important to have that intention and that purpose with everything you do. Just putting stuff out there for the sake of putting stuff out there is terrible. It's just, it hurts if anything.
Yeah. It's metaphorically trying to push that 350 bench when it's not what you need.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, still learning, I'm 4 years into this now. So it's, and it's still funny when you get different advice from different people, and you got to make sure that, when you're getting it from somebody that has that experience in this world, because it's not the same as the average, the average thing, making sure you stand out, but also making sure that you're, supporting the keywords that people are going to look up when they actually go to search you. But, I don't know about where you are, but, chiropractic has a pretty negative connotation to it in a lot of instances. Like I talk about adjusting like 5% of the time on a regular basis. Most people see me as a, sports, I would be really careful with my phrasing here because you can't say I'm like a physician or anything, like a sports practitioner that's focuses on the nervous system. If I say it's neurospecialist, so I'm going to get called by the college here in an instant. So, but it's hard to create that definition. But as long as people like understand what you're doing and you're showing that off through these resources, it helps a lot. So, yeah.
It's a great answer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'll circle back. We'll talk about the SEO side of things another time. But the referrals. So you mentioned a lot of business obviously comes from word of mouth. Is that something that you've tried to systemize, or you just leave it to people? Like, do you offer any sort of incentives for referrals from other people, or how does that look these days?
So I did, and again, the marketing mechanic, got to be very cautious about, incentivizing people for referrals, or especially Google reviews. Referrals is not so bad. Google reviews is like, that's where you got to be really sticky and cautious. We did do a period of time where we were offering discounts for, the initial visit and for the person in the next visit for that individual. As we kind of went, but again, we try to brand ourselves as this premium clinic, and offering these discounts kind of goes against that to a degree. So there's a bit of a fine line there, and like I'm not trying to like just rip people off for money, but people want to help. At the end of the day, if you help them, people want to help. And my philosophy is always, sort of staying on the positive end of goodwill with people. If I have the extra time with somebody because my client canceled, or I just have a gap, or took an extra long lunch and the dog doesn't need to go out today because someone else is looking after them, like I'll take that extra time. And then I just, say, hey, like if you know anybody that could benefit from this, or hey, if you want me to have a look at this person, because people get talking too of like, people get talking, oh, my friend has this shoulder thing that they've been complaining about forever, or anything along those lines. It's just a great opportunity to just ask, right? And we've systemized it a little bit more recently, so we have like follow-up emails that are going out. We just listening to your previous podcast with is it Dima? I'm trying to remember who she was. Anyway,
and virtual assistants.
Virtual assistant, yes.
Yeah.
So we use a company called Ginger Desk, which is associated with the Jane app, which she went on about that as well quite a bit. And we do those recalls. We make sure that person's introduced. We make sure that person has that opportunity to ask questions, and there's somebody always there, because I'm busy treating most of the time, right? It used to be I was doing everything hands-on, professional, personable. As much as I wanted to maintain that style, it became too much. So having somebody a little bit more systemized, like, hey, reaching out on a regular basis, checking in, when somebody is done with their clinical experience, we reach out, we ask for a Google review, we ask for, if there's anything that anybody that would benefit from our services, please let us know. If somebody is talking about in the clinic, like I have a option for, a free discovery call, just to have an initial conversation to make sure that we are the right fit. And, I offer to do that in person or to go in a little extra long with somebody that might have a complex case that wants to learn, because that's the biggest burden. They don't want to just go to another practitioner. People with that complexity of care, they've seen like 7, 8, 9 different people. So they want to just go or commit like to 6 to 12 sessions and be, just more money out the door and not getting better. So if you just sit there and have that conversation with them, I'll take that extra, extra 15 minutes or do it in person instead of virtually. And, just little things like that go such a long way. And now we're starting to systemize it a little bit more by asking people when they've, kind of gone through their, I usually do it on the initial visit just to kind of check in, make sure everything's feeling good. They had a positive response, but also then, when they've, gone through their treatment cycle, usually either transfer them over to a maintenance or as needed approach. Then we'll reach back out and we'll, ask for a Google review. And we just say, like, we're a small clinic, we're growing. We try to help as many people as we can. And if you don't mind doing that, it'd be huge. And we try to make it as personable as possible. I think that's the one thing that I think, we've done with automated shins with Jane. It's too robotic. So, just add that one personal piece, even just making a note of their dog. Right?
Yeah.
I've profiles, just at the top. I have it starred. Most people have it as for medical alerts. So I have it for they have 3 kids and their little dog, Snoopy. I mean, that's my guy that's sitting here right now. But you know what I mean? It's
Snoop Dogg,
just
nice.
one little touch. It makes
Snoop Dogg. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that actually. I was say that actually circles your point. We had an amazing podcast episode with Larry Stanley, a fellow Canadian, and he was making that point. We were going heavy on the importance of understanding the personality types, both of your clientele and your team members. And he talked about, I have to actually re-listen to it myself, but basically the point being was, if you can have around 8 pieces of information about somebody, a customer, they're going to remember you forever. What they do for work, pets, all that kind of thing. It really, really goes such a long way. And it also circles back to 2 other points I was going to say, which is, number one, the fact that you get referrals is such great testament, because what I always say is a good product makes marketing easy to sell, and good product makes marketing easier, and good marketing makes selling easier. But it all starts with the product. And if your product is good enough that people are referring to each other, that's the only way you can offset, I suppose, the inevitable increased customer acquisition costs. Because as that gets more expensive, you need something that can grow exponentially. And the only way of getting new patients that can grow exponentially is if you know that every patient I get has the potential to refer 2 or 3 others. And that's obviously, how you go over time. With regards to, again, data, and now we're taking the marketing hat off for a minute, because as I said, this is frankly I nerd out about a lot. You incorporate advanced health tracking tools like Garmin, like Aura, like Whoop, and all that into your practice. How and if, I suppose, have these technologies changed the way you approach your patient care, and how do you leverage that kind of tech?
I mean, it's a growing thing, right? We talked about this a lot. There's companies like Inside Tracker, that's still something that you can do it from home. People want to know, right? And we are huge tech-driven, data-driven, and I think I'm going to go a little off track here. The biggest problem with that is that so many people measure, but they don't do anything about it. Right, everybody wants to know how many steps that they got, and they want to make sure they took this many flights of stairs. They, track their calories. They're measuring, but what are they doing with that information? And I think a lot of people are so data driven, and they don't know. They don't know what to do with it, right? So that's where I think a lot of people struggle and fail with a lot of these systems, is that they have no one to talk to. Right. They, it's something that they want to be more independent with their healthcare, and they want to be more empowered with their healthcare. But then they have all this information. It's like, what do I do next? yes, I did 10,000 steps a day. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. What does that mean? Right. And my HRV is low today. They're not 100% sure of what they are doing. And, when you have just little pieces of the puzzle, but you don't actually see the full picture, I think that's where, things get messy. So, I go back to actually when I was studying for the MCAT prep course, there was one thing that they taught us was like, when you first do like study, skim through it, get a full understanding of it so that when you read it the second time, you actually can retain some of that information. Like it's like looking at, the outside of the box when trying to build a puzzle versus trying to build a puzzle with just all these little bits of information, but you actually have no idea what the puzzle looks like.
Yeah,
Right?
context.
You don't know if it gives you context. So, I think where we have been able to sort of, niche ourselves and provide some of that value to our clinics. And I mean, at the end of the day, from a day-to-day standpoint, um, you know, we try to give people realistic tools, whether we have that information or not, right? Everybody would start off with, depending on what they're doing from a health tracking standpoint or, metabolic assessment standpoint, we're looking at, a food log to get an idea of where people are having, maybe some issues. What is their baseline? What are they doing now? And then integrating that into some of the health tracking devices, or we just start with the food log. And then we go with and look at their symptoms. Are they inflamed? Are they having sugar cravings? Are they having irritability? Are they having trouble sleeping? And usually there's some very, very, very low level baseline things that we can intervene with right away that is going to help succumb with some of their symptoms. The problem with what I do from a hands-on treatment standpoint versus when you're talking about nutrition and the metabolic system and, some of the systemic things is, one is, you can immediately feel the change. The other one, it's very difficult to have that awareness of, is this actually helping me? Do I feel better? Right. So it is really helpful for a lot of people to delegate that, need to sit there and think and understand what they are feeling and allow some of these tools to do that for you. So if we do an intervention, this is how we operate. So if we do some sort of intervention, for a lot of people, they have a very heavy carb breakfast and they have sugar cravings for the rest of their day because their insulin spikes and then we get inflamed and then, insulin goes up, glucose crashes. It takes a while for insulin to drop back down. So they crave something and then they end up just repeating the cycle and over again. You intervene with a high protein, high fat breakfast. It doesn't mean anti-carb. I'm not anti-carb by any means, but, just not making sure that it's not spiking your insulin right out of the gate.
Shams.
Yeah, exactly. That's great with that accent, by the way. Sorry.
I'd say so. It's like when I say digital marketing, people are like, what? Say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, we can, people will often feel the difference, right? When you start to actually have those interventions. But for a lot of people that don't, they're so worried about their family and their friends and their life and their kids and work, the CEOs, the high level athletes, they're so much of their energy is focused on, what they are doing and trying to compete and trying to work and just to get the job done. The self-awareness is an important thing to teach people. And I don't want to ignore that part because that is definitely, it's something that can go by the wayside really quickly. But if you have those tools to know that the intervention is working and being effective and you can show them that data, that is hugely, hugely, hugugely important. And we do that in a lot of ways too. So we do the health check, we do the metabolic assessment. If we retest them 4 months later, we see, okay, their magnesium magnesium, their vitamins, their fatty acid profile is significantly improved. Then we know that we're on the right track. And these are baseline things. A lot of people will jump to the hormones and a lot of these, the allergy, food sensitivity tests. And, those are all going to be problems if you don't have the core nutrients in your system that is, helping us, function and do all these things on a regular basis. So start at the baseline, test, retest. If that is not helping your symptoms, then we can start to explore a little bit deeper. But we, whether or not it's effective or not, we know that we're on the right track. Everything is done with purpose and intention. That information is going to add value to anything that we do down the road. So it's this constant progressive health. Like even if you did not have success in that moment, now you have ready to use baseline information that is going to help with any care or intervention that you're going to do down the road. So, even, we do a functional assessment, something I'm starting to integrate as a mandatory part of the practice is you have to go work with a personal trainer, and we have a 16-point movement score that is going to help, separate, stability from mobility issues. So we have a full, system of how we're doing. Like why more client didn't know they were really feeling any better because they're still in pain. Their score went from a 20 to a 10, which is, when they want close to 0 as possible. And, they're like, wow, like their functionality improved so much. But part of it is they're an athlete. They are continuing to do things. So they're still hurting, right? They're not taking this full break and letting themselves recover. They need to get through the season. They're still in pain, but their functionality is improved, their strength is improved. They're they're way, way, way less likely to injure that or get hurt again. So if you have those tools and those information, and you can see the progress and show that to the client, you're going to create long-term benefit, and you're always going to make sure that you're going in the right direction.
I'd assume as well from a business standpoint, churn, again, I always say there's 4 levers we can pull: traffic, conversion, price, and churn. No matter what type of business, those are the 4 variables that we can tweak to grow the business, be it offline, be it brick and mortar, be it online, what have you. Churn obviously being, the actual lifetime value of these patients being such a big component of what you do. I would assume getting that buy-in from the patient and actually getting those sort of leading metrics versus lagging metrics between sessions probably helps. Would I be correct in saying it probably helps with the actual engagement of the patients? Because, like, for example, I was tracking this last week and my heart rate variability was taking a nosedive because I wasn't sleeping. Turns out that's important. Evidently. But the point being was, as I would assume it's the same with your patients. If I was to make an educated guess, it's very easy to stick your head in the sand with a lot of the symptoms of maybe not taking the feedback that's given by iON. So would it be fair to say that having these sort of tools nearly as an accountability factor in turn helps with retention and actual results, because people can't, not to say bullshit. Oh yeah, bullshit. It's my podcast.
yeah, you said we weren't. No, but like 100%. So it goes back to the always providing value, right? Somebody comes in, they're not just going to come in here and like waste $200 on a session because they don't really need it. Right? If you're seeing that there is constant room for improvement, and you know that they are moving into the right direction, and it's a progressive thing that you're constantly keeping an eye on and tracking, people want to come in, they want to talk about it, and they're excited to talk about it, and they feel empowered. So, this conversation I've had with staff members is about, retaining people and empowering them to, do you empower them to let them go off on their own, or you empower them in a way that they actually want to come back? It seems opposite, right? But people talk about the ethical and the moral dilemma of, do you try to get this person so that they don't need you anymore? And at the end of the day, to a degree, yes. But if you empower them with every single session that they come in, so that they are constantly progressively getting better and getting better and getting better and getting better, especially like with the growth of longevity, and we are constantly going to dip with our as we age, right? It's just the reality of life. But if we're continuously doing things that is constantly getting better, people want to come back in. They know that they're we're showing them that there is room for improvement. We're showing them that they are improving. So it's huge from a retention standpoint, and nobody has that understanding. I don't want to go see the walking clinic when I got dealing with a whole bunch of medical issues. I don't want to go see the person that actually has known my history, has all my blood tests ready on hand, And, from a chiropractic standpoint and people offering a service, you can go to another physio, they're going to give me the exercise. You go to another chiro, they're going to adjust me, they'll do the same thing. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. But you start actually having this data and this information, and you're, building like progress, and you can see where they've had dips and they've had and issues with performance, and, they've gotten sick. You can really start to, have people want to come back in. The other thing too is that, I keep an eye on it. Like everybody that has it has uploads the information onto me, or I can sign into their account depending on the device that we have. If someone starts getting sick, I can be like, hey, what's going on? Just check in. Great opportunity. Just like now we're talking about like really easy marketing. Like, hey, like, do you want to quickly have a chat? Do you want to, like, they don't have to be necessarily worried about it, but like you always have, that safety net if somebody's looking out for your health without you having to worry about it to the same extent, right?
I love that.
Your HRV starts dropping. No other reason. You're like, your sleep's fine. Okay, maybe you're getting sick. Let's pump some vitamin, or let's get some zinc and some vitamin C, and like, make sure you get a good night's sleep. There's, you can intervene without even having to see the person firsthand. So
I love that. Often
cool.
Yeah, often the solution, not the service. No, I love that. I'm conscious of time, but one final question for you. In terms of again, broad question, but in terms of the most important business lessons that you've learned since you started iON, if you had to pick one, what would it be, and how has it shaped the way you run your clinic today?
I was prepared for this question, but then I always, when you get put onto the spot about something like that, it always becomes challenging. I would say, honestly, it's be genuine. Don't try to be something that you're not. I can look at it like how much of that has affected me from a clinical standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from, getting practitioners to come in and work for us, right? People that have stayed around here have come in because they found us because we are who we are. We've tried to, grow when we were scaling, and we hired probably the wrong people because they, we just needed bodies in the door. And then that became, we lost our identity a little bit. I tried to delegate a lot of my social media marketing to some other individuals and services. And not to say that you have to necessarily do it yourself, but at least work with somebody to a point where they understand and can help you plan something that speaks to your true message. From an SEO standpoint, we started hitting like all these chiropractic, physio, like all these keywords, but not actually getting into our niche. And since we've now working with a marketing company that understands the premium nature of what we're trying to do rather than just trying to get the masses, our success and our turnover has been huge. So, I think any fault that I've had is like tried to do something that I'm not, or we're not, because, I got advice from other people, or because it became a little bit too much work. I got constrained for time. You get desperate in certain issues or certain situations. Be genuine, know your why. And, everything that you do with intention towards that genuinity and towards that purpose that you are trying to create. And it'll go a long way.
I love it. Great answer. That being said then, where can people find you most easily?
Oh, yeah.
Outside of the CrossFit box, online.
Yeah, so there is. We're ionhealthperformance.com. So iON Health Performance. Again, ignore our social media for the first little while. If you're watching this a couple of weeks afterwards, we're going to have everything kind of tuned up and fixed a little bit better, and a little bit more of me. Hopefully, that's not a bad thing. We're going to be starting our, YouTube channel here at, iON Health Performance, and our handle as well, with some of the health tracking stuff that we can do. And, hopefully that starts to spark some interest. It's one of those things where, kind of not as much in person, more stuff that we can do virtually, and it's growing, and it's basically exploding right now. It's hard to keep up with, but, we're getting those systems in place to be able to manage that, and it's great. But I'll be sharing a lot more content going with that in the future, and I'm frankly really excited to kind of go through my own journey and share that with everybody. So yeah, website, YouTube, Instagram, we're all on that iON Health Performance page.
Or I said I'll include all of those links in the show notes. And then on a side note, Ben, definitely send me any of those videos when you do put them up. I'll make sure to check them out and share them on my own LinkedIn, because I'm sure it'll be valuable.
Awesome. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate this time too. It's been awesome to come on here and learn a little bit more about your podcast over the last couple of days. It's learned quite a bit from some other practitioners on there. So you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate you considering us for having us on here. It's been great.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ben. Cheers.
All right.